hear that? Yeah.
Can you all hear that?
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you came here today and you're here now. Just checking.
Okay, so for those of you that have not heard of this gentleman, his direct connection is to Billy Meier of the Pleiades Plagiarin contact case from Switzerland, which has been going on through today, what, 40 plus years?
76.
All right, since 1976.
No, 76 years.
76 years?
Yeah, since 1942.
Yeah, I'm only aware of the information from the 70s. We're there, so.
There's more.
Michael Horn. Please welcome Michael Horn. He has to be local for us, from Flagstaff, Arizona.
Yes. Like I said, is it nice? Okay, you know, while you were listening to that very enchanting, lovely flute music, and maybe there's other names to that, the instrument, but to me that was just, those were flutes. You also have had this photograph staring at you, or vice versa, back and forth. How many people have ever seen this photograph? Okay, right? And how many people haven't? How many people are unfamiliar with this? It helps for me to know. Good, okay. How many of you have ever heard of Billy Meier before? Okay. Now this is going to be a no-blame question because it also helps me to know how I can present this to you. How many people, I'm going to ask the hard one first, think that maybe the case is a hoax, a little funny? Well, okay, well let's get right down to business then. This is perhaps going to go into some places that will be a little unfamiliar even for the people that are familiar with Billy's case. The photograph you're looking at here is one in a series of 9 photos that Meier took, I think it was 1975, outside with his regular 35mm camera that had a viewfinder stuck at infinity. So he was a good distance from this. This is a kind of somewhat cropped photo. And we'll get into a little bit of that, but I'm going to take this someplace else today. But in order to do that, I've got to start somewhere, don't I? Okay. I refer to this as the singularly authentic Billy Meier UFO contacts. And I say that as a preface to this, which, in case you can't see, I'll kind of read some of this for you. The confirmed existence of extraterrestrial life would be the single greatest discovery in all of science and human history, exceeded only by the confirmed contact between extraterrestrials and the people of Earth, right? So the criteria that's used to determine the truth is the quantity and the quality of the evidence. Most people who have any familiarity with Billy Meier, they may not know that his actual first evidence was presented by him, what I call the foundational evidence. And it's connected to this person represented here in a drawing named Asket, or Asket. And she is said to be, and I'm going to do a little preface here that I don't want to have to do every time. I might do it more than once, and which is according to the information in the case. And I use that kind of frame when it's something that I personally can neither prove nor disprove, nor has anybody else so far proved nor disproved. In other words, things that might be part of the information in this case, the claims associated with it, that we have not been able to empirically state that is absolutely factual. Anybody can prove that to themselves. I will refer to it that way. So this is allegedly Asket, an extraterrestrial human being from an adjoining universe, not an adjoining solar system, not an adjoining galaxy, an adjoining universe that pretty much we know nothing about, except, if it's true, from the Meier case. This woman, Asket, was Billy Meier's mentor for a period of time. And during the period of time, from about the time he was 16 until he was about 27, she guided him both in terms of tutoring and mentoring him in person, in her craft, on different locations on Earth, and also kind of observed and oversaw certain of his own necessary self-started adventures, the studies that he was making on his own of the major religions of the earth, so that he would become familiar with all that had preceded him historically in terms of religious traditions for very important reasons. And I hope to get to the important reasons today. So this is one of the photographs that he claims he took in 1964, Moroli, India, at the Ashoka Ashram. Now for 1964, that's still not too bad, considering when you'll see the kind of camera he was using as well. I'll show you a few of these photographs because these are craft. These are objects in the sky. Some of the photos are black and white, or some have survived as sepia tone photos, and then you'll get, we've come in and did a little close-up. Billy didn't take a close-up. And then there are the things that are a little more familiar to us when we see things that represent as lights in the sky. I guess I got this little thing here, if I can figure out how to use it. So we have a woman right down here, do you see? And those are 8 of the craft that are said to be part of Ascat's people in this particular part of the mission with Meier that she was, and still is, very much involved in. Now, here is one of the photographs from 1964 taken at the same time by a German woman who was there that Meier handed the camera to. This is Billy Edward Albert Meier, not yet called Billy yet for another year or two, sitting on the ground with a spire behind him from the Ashoka Ashram with a cross in the sky. What you're seeing here is a clip from a film that I made with a friend of mine called The Silent Revolution of Truth. We filmed in 2006 and 2007. It was released in 2008, and it's actually freely available on YouTube. Now, we came in with the movie camera to film different photos in Meier's album, and this one was kind of interesting. I got my nose up real close because I thought, well, wait a minute, what did he do? Did he paint something in there? Is this like white adhesive tape? But you may notice here, if I push the right button, the clouds come around and somewhat over. Here it's a little more dense. This is in the photograph from 1964. Across, over the head of a man, sitting on the ground in India at an ashram studying Buddhism at that time. Now, I will tell you in a moment what I think that is about. I'll tell you now before I get onto the camera. This is what I think, and it will become more apparent why I think that without claiming that it's true, the more we get into this case. All right. We are all familiar with the name Jesus Christ, right? Now, according to the information in this case, there never was a human being who walked the earth called Jesus Christ. There was a human being, according to this again, whose name was Emmanuel, spelled in terms of the Meier reference with a J-M-M. You have it in the Old Testament, I think, with an I, and then in the New Testament, E. So Isaiah 7:14, and his name shall be called Emmanuel. Matthew 1:23, and his name shall be called Emmanuel. That's it. We know of no other places in either of those testaments in which that slipped through. Emmanuel was a great prophet, a great teacher, and indeed went through a crucifixion. Again, let me just say this just so you know, according to the information presented in this case. It is said that he survived the crucifixion with the help of Gabriel and 3 healers who had come in from India, where he had been previously, prior to the crucifixion. He had spent time in India learning from various yogic and meditational masters in the Himalaya how to control his body and his breathing, as well as many, many other things pertaining to ancient spiritual teaching that he, Emmanuel, was also connected to. It is said that when he survived the crucifixion afterwards, and Gabriel moves the stone away, and he appears to people, they the touching, why it's just like flesh, because it was, that he ultimately leaves town with his mother, with Mary Magdalene, who was not his romantic interest, was technically a half-sister, and one of 17 female disciples you've never heard anything about, more than likely. Along with his brother Thomas and other people, they travel through various countries, Afghanistan, Iraq, and all, where he preaches the truth, as he's come to do, is basically thrown out of every country on the way, and ends up in India, in an area, ultimately, in an area called Srinagar. His mother, Mary, dies, is buried. There's a tomb in Srinagar for Mary. There's a tomb in Srinagar for Isa, with the carving at the base of the tomb, 2 human feet with holes in the center, sculpted in, and with a legend underneath that says, this is paraphrasing, "Here lies a great teacher who was crucified in his own land, who has come here to teach us." He dies at about 110 years of age, so it said. So now we come back to, well, what's this about? Well, it's India. And here's this Swiss man, Edward Albert Meyer, sitting on the ground with the familiar symbol that we know as the cross of the crucifixion, which, according to the information, is more of a Y-shaped cross like this, not a straight-off thing. Okay. So here's my interpretation, and I will try to fill in a lot of the missing pieces as I go along here. In this material, it is said that Emmanuel was one of 7 prophets for the earth human beings, that's all of us, in a particular mission where his mentors, his contact people, as was true for the 4 prophets before him, Enoch, Elijah, Isaiah, and Jeremiah, were part of this self-obligated mission of the people we have heard were called Pleiadians, which don't exist, and which call themselves Pleiaren. There would be 2 more prophets in this series of 7. The 6th prophet would be called Muhammad. And like the 5 previous prophets, his teaching and the story of his life and all would be badly corrupted, manipulated, and changed. He'd be turned into a virtual pedophile and all this, when, according to the information here, he was a champion of women and their rights. His mission was to try to stem the expansion of the church so that it would prevent the virtual enslavement of humankind that would have resulted otherwise. I'm not here to offend anybody's religious beliefs. I'm just giving you information. There would be 1 more prophet in this lineage. And each of these prophets would really just be a subsequent personality where the reincarnation of the same spirit would be present. And just to lighten it up for a moment, while we drop the other shoe, I tend to see it like this. After 6 failed missions, meaning the spiritual teaching brought to enlighten humanity about the true nature of life and creation and nature and love and peace and freedom and harmony, 6 times has been screwed up because people got very ambitious and power hungry, and they created various belief systems, all of which contain some pieces of truth, but none of which are the entire complete truth contained, according to what we're told here, in the very ancient spiritual teaching. So somebody connected with the final mission for Earth says, I know, this time, no flamboyant, charismatic guy flailing a sword on a horse or standing on a mountaintop and pronouncing and getting nailed up for it. How about by the time the world finds the guy? He's a kind of gray-bearded, pot-bellied, one-armed Swiss farmer. Everybody says, yeah, that could work. Nobody's going to start a cult around him or a belief, religion. They're going to try and kill him like they tried to kill everybody else, but he'll be up for it. All of those photographs that we just saw from India were taken with this Kodak 1940s bellows type camera. My father had one. You're lucky. The thing rolls out. If it doesn't get stopped on its little tracks, you can take basic, very basic photographs, special effects, probably ruled out long ago. So everything you saw there was taken with this camera. And interestingly enough, in 1964, Meier attracts the attention of a so-called staff reporter for actually a highly prestigious newspaper that had been in existence for 100 years prior, like late 1850s, early 1860s. And it's the Delhi Statesman. And herein, this reporter, and I know you can't see it here, we have it clear on my website. He talks about this vagabond 27-year-old Swiss guy with no money walking around with a knapsack and an old camera and a photo album with 80 UFO photos in it. And he describes a number of those photos, including the one with the cross. So that didn't get manufactured in the 70s and 80s and 90s. That was already in Meier's photo album in 1964. There's an eyewitness to the India episodes. It's actually about 100, but Pobal Cheng. In 1964, she was a young girl. She would go on, as she grew up to become an adult, she would become a diplomat to the UN for Cambodia, 12 years in the General Assembly. Here she is with her brother and Dharmawara, head monk at the Ashoka Ashram. Okay? Here she is. I think this was about 1995, 98. She comes forward to make a presentation, along with another woman who had been either a teacher of hers or an associate of hers, and they both come forward to say, look, circumstances have been such that Pobal's privacy has been compromised. People have been finding this Billy Meier thing and they're connecting it to her because of the Ashoka Ashram. And Pobal comes forward and says, okay, I'm going to tell you what happened. And she goes ahead and makes a nice presentation that's videotaped, and her friend comes up and confirms it. And basically she says, look, we saw this all the time. We saw this man, now known as Billy Meier. He'd be walking the grounds of the ashram, and this woman would come asket, and sometimes I was a little girl and she'd come into my room at night and sit in a chair as I was falling asleep, and she might be singing or stroking my hair. And in the morning I would always wake up feeling like I knew a lot more than I did when I went to sleep that night. So here is Pobal in 2000 in New York City. She goes to Switzerland to see and meet with Billy all these years later. She brings her husband on one, I think she went a couple times, as we may see. She goes back to the Ashoka Ashram in 2000. Remember, this is like 36 years later. So with this whole thing with India, we have 80 original UFO photos. That's 1964. Somebody describes them, a reporter in a newspaper. 11 of those photos still exist. We've seen them, we've filmed them, photographed them, and they're still living, credible eyewitnesses. Now, we'll see if we can hear this. I don't know. We will.
My name is Edward Albert Meier.
My name is Edward Albert Meier, but all around the world I am simply called Billy. I received the name in Tehran when I was on the road, and since then this name has remained with me. I'd say, in and of itself, my childhood was very good and very pleasant for me. I learned very much on the one hand because of my parents, and on the other hand because of an extraterrestrial called Svat, whom I got to know in 1942.
How old were you then?
I was 5 years old. And this man, Svat, taught me very much of my school knowledge, besides many other things, just as Pastor Emanuel Zimmerman did. Then I confided in the pastor, and he told me I did not need to be afraid. He explained to me what telepathy is.
Okay. Now, there's a lot of information that this man Svat imparted to Billy, some of which we will never know, but recently, in the past couple of years, we have posted documents from 1945, 46, and 48. I'll get into that a little bit, only because the information, especially in the 1948 document, are predictions for the times from 1948 to 2050. Now, when I read those, I will say this much about it, I was kind of startled. And a couple of years ago, when I went on one of my visits to spend time with Billy, I said to him, so how did Sloth do that? Was that through spiritual or consciousness-related powers? He said, no. He did it through time travel. That was the most depressing thing I could have been told. Why? Because if that's true, again, we go back to the caveat, according to the information in the case. That means that the events specified in that document happen with 100% certainty. Half of them already have. I'll just drop this one in there pertaining to some of what else is in that document. In 1948, in that document, it's not just that it's told to Billy, it's told to those of us that would read it at whatever time. The warnings about the earthquakes that will start to take place in central Italy that will precede the eruptions of Etna, Vesuvius, Mount Marsili, okay, and as well Mount Stromboli and Campi Flegrei. Those earthquakes began about a year ago or so. And those of you who might know who Dutch Sins is, who does fantastic predictions of earthquakes and all, he started to focus on those as well. Then there was some rumbling at Vesuvius. Etna had a minor eruption. That is the prelude. Subterranean, submarine volcanoes that we didn't know anything about until relatively few years ago are mentioned by Sloth as are going to become very active. He also warned specifically about Indonesia and Sumatra. And we know that not just a day or two ago, the quake and tsunami there, but even prior to that, other things. There is something called the Eiffel Fields in northern Germany, which is a caldera as well, just like Campi Flegrei and just like Yellowstone. Those three major calderas are going to come alive in the coming time. We are not given specific dates, but this is part of why I'm doing this kind of a presentation today. I'm going to go back and forth. This is one of Meier's original over 1,200 primarily daytime clear UFO photos, incomparable and technically still irreproducible. What is this? Oh, that's that. Okay. So here's another one. Look at you can see the dissimilar metals, the machining. There's a wonderful model maker skeptic in England who has gone to great lengths to try to debunk by making wonderful models of Billy's UFOs and photographing or filming them. He doesn't have them tested because even a layman can look at them right now and say, great work, but those are small models close to a camera. We won't get into big deals about all the UFO. I'll show you stuff. Here's another one of the 9 that we spoke about. You can see the reflection of the trees and the sky here in the cupola and on the flange, on the rim. These are real 3-dimensional physical objects. They moved the craft around the trees for Meier in these kinds of photographs so that he could take photos from different angles. Again, more. Now some of this comes off clearer or not so clear, but these are window type things on the craft. And again, this one we get to see a little closer perhaps. And one more time. I mean, that's a pretty nifty photograph, folks. I like it. So these 3 photos here, or these 3 objects in this photo, this is a clip from a film that Meier took. I'm not showing it. In the film, these 2 objects are kind of wobbling around, and this one's more steady, and then the 2 disappear, and the one in the center remains there. And the branch in the front is bobbing around in the wind, but the wind is not affecting the object in the center, nor was it affecting those 2 which were doing like a rotational type of thing. This was taken from inside a craft above Switzerland. Billy's in this craft. Here's the one closest to him. There's the one farthest. Again, Regular cameras, no digital, no computers, no Photoshop, no special effects. Yes, we've had 2 different award-winning special effects companies look at Meier's evidence, in addition to all sorts of other photographic experts and analyses over a 40-year period. Switzerland, down here. Here's another one. Oops, no, not so fast. Here it is. And there it is. Cute little things in the sky, right? This is a famous photograph. It's called the sunlight shot. And the reason it's famous is, well, the sunlight is glinting off of an object. Here we've got the tops of trees. They're not very clear. This is taken from a distance. But when they analyzed, what did they find? The branch came in front of the object. It's not a small model in front. We'll see if we get some of this. I don't know if this will play. I may or may not go through the whole thing. Let me explain what's happening here. There's a Japanese film director from Nippon TV who went to Switzerland. And he is with Billy and a friend, somebody here, because Billy only has one hand. And that's the tree in full bloom. And I'm just going to walk over to it. But just watch what happens as they walk to the tree. You start to get a sense of the actual scale. That's not close to us. As they keep going to that tree is approximately 40 feet tall, making the object that was hovering right in here about 23 feet in diameter. It's not a bomb. And they keep going, they get closer, and pretty soon you'll see just a little, they get shorter, and the tree stands. I will probably bump through this because of time, but there it is, and there they are. This is really stunningly close evidence.
And how many minutes it stayed here?
And he asks him about this, and he asks him about that. All right. So,
20 seconds.
This is zoomed in from a distance. Watch here. Watch, watch, watch. Light, and it'll go on again. There it is. That's not a glint of sunlight. The skeptics want to tell you just a glint. It's a coherent beam that goes on and off, okay? We might get that again. 8mm film camera, nothing digital, at a great distance. He's zooming in on an object. It's a little clearer when you look at it online. There it is. It was just there, and there it goes. Okay, let's see what this one. I don't even know what the next one is, to tell you the truth. I was just grabbing the slides like crazy. Oh, this one. People say, well, that's just that's a model on a string or something, right? Being swung like a pendulum. Except when it was analyzed, you know when you hold something, in order to get it to move, you have to do this. They'd have to have been moving that pivotal point. Apart from that, let's do it one more time. If we can. Go back. The top of the tree will sway at a certain point under the backwash of the craft. I think you'll see it here. Watch. See that? You can't do that with a model. You'd have to have a string on a model tree. He's hundreds of feet away from the thing. Okay, we're just showing you real unknown objects. Nobody's claimed that they made them here on Earth. Okay, so I brought this to a company called Uncharted Territory in 2006. They won the Academy Award for Independence Day. I showed them the film. I said, can you duplicate that? They said, oh, yeah. But we have to use computer-generated stuff for that, because otherwise you'd need a crane and wires and... Well, that assessment of theirs, they didn't realize, but they were echoing what the special effects director for 2001, the film from Kubrick, Wally Gentleman, said, I can duplicate that shot with a crew of 15 people and about $80,000. Other than that, whatever that is, somebody filmed it. So we've gone through, and the attacks haven't stopped. Well, they kind of have stopped. I'll go into that in a moment too. So, an investigation a couple of years ago, a whole new analysis of this. As a matter of fact, they showed it, I think it's in here, the craft appears to be in two places at once in one frame of film. Nobody's pulled that off yet. Okay, so here you've got a really wild-looking thing. People said, oh, it's just a garbage can lid with Christmas tree ornaments on it. Don't think so, because this is a real tree. We had forestry experts look at the trees in Meier's photos. Pruning marks, nesting, they call that up there. Model trees, miniature trees don't have those kinds of details. And you don't try and stick one on a hillside in Switzerland where all these people are going to come by going, say, what do you do with this model tree in a garbage can lid? So Billy took 64 of these photos. This one from within 15 feet in his front yard. 15 feet. Look at these things. Blue, green, red, within here. There's a blue lens of some form in here. All sorts of interesting machining. We're told that it's the radiation from the energy of the ship that actually causes distortion in the photographing or filming of it. The craft does not have that type of a wavy construction. I'll show you something else here, well, in a second, but just pay attention to it here, these globes up here, and these here, and this line. So you've got this top part of the cupola here, and this band. We'll come back to that. But look for a moment, as best you can see here, this kind of detail. Billy's a one-armed guy who's very handy, planting trees and doing stuff with hammers and all. I've never seen him do Swiss watchmaker type of stuff. Now, remember, here, we've got this thing here. Okay, so, see here? This is that band that this band up here was united with before, but now the cupola has actually raised up. I discovered that about 8 years ago. I came to him, I said, hey, why hasn't anybody mentioned this thing? What's this about? He said, well, there's a little room in there, and they just lift that up to make more room for certain things. You know, to him, oh yeah, well, you know, it's how it is. Okay, so you come in on this angle, and you see that these are all those red lights. There's 100 of these fine jewel-like little red lights, or whatever they are. And this construction, strange apertures here. Again, you know, when you look at it online, it's a little bit clearer, but all the detail, this stuff, it's just, okay, there it is. Really pretty thing. The guy who was doing an analysis on the wedding cake craft dropped one of the photos right off the internet into Photoshop, and he tweaked the contrast and the brightness, and this is what comes out. You won't see all of it represented here, but that is one of those meter-high posts that they have in Switzerland in the roads. There's a gravel road, a grassy hillside, and there's an energy field produced around this craft. This is a full-size object hovering over a road at night. This is this. And a guy in Hong Kong that I know, he messed with it. He got a different settings. That's what it looks like. I managed to get it shown in Times Square for about 15 seconds. Yeah, you know, in New York, they're going, oh, yeah, okay, beep, beep, beep. So who knows? So there was an analysis done of the wedding cake UFO. And they determined, using state-of-the-art computer technology of today, there's 3 different sizes. These are real objects. We can triangulate. We know exactly where it is on the property. The spaces, we measured the reflections in the globe. Knock yourself out. It's for free online. This is even stranger. Looks like a fluorescent bathtub. We are told this is a light craft from the Andromeda Galaxy. Meier was unable to establish any communication. He was taught as a child how to be telepathic and all of that. Couldn't do it with these folks. And the whole analysis was done on that, and they're saying it's not a fake type of double exposure. A guy I know who's not into UFOs, but he worked for Disney and he did special things. He says, that's an accidental triple exposure. And that's what the other guys came out with too. That all happened, maybe Billy's going like that, I don't know, but that's what it was. Now this gets interesting, because what you're looking at here, there's Billy's hand with his little tattoo on it. And here you have a thumb mark, right? Count along with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The story behind this, there was another race. They are not the Plejaren people that Billy's been meeting with since he's 5 years old. They're called the Trilaner. They're a short, human race, all these human races, he said their skin is kind of a lightly tinged green, and when Billy first met him, was in an adventure he had in 1975 with a player on a big craft, and all this stuff, they're going through space, and they're telling him about all these different galaxies and things, some of which we've discovered since he published the information. But he says he's introduced to this little guy, and he wants to shake hands. Billy's got a grip like a vice. He's got one hand, so he's really, so he wants to shake hands, and Ptah says to him, Ptah being the supposed leader of the Pleiadians, he says, I don't recommend you do that. Their skin chemistry is different than yours, and it's not going to be comfortable. He says, well, what if we just do the touch fingers? He said, okay, go ahead. And then Billy said, my finger burned for a whole week after that. Their chemistry is such that it is to our, corrosive. So these clever little Treelaners, they set their thing down like this, and they smudged fingerprints all over the hood of his stepson's little Subaru station wagon. Another shot of it. And they happen to have a total of 7 fingers. You can see the papillary lines when you look really closely in the photos. The papillary lines are there. They're smaller. This is not Billy, obviously, because it's somebody who has the left hand. But they are smaller people, so we're told. So Linda Moulton Howe, who many of you probably have heard of, said, oh, can I come and bring some scientists to examine this? And Billy says, yes, of course, just don't destroy the car. So naturally, she never showed up. So, the confirmed existence of extraterrestrial life would be the single greatest in history, exceeded only by confirmed contact between extraterrestrials and the people of Earth. Now, I don't know if I missed my slides on this guy Joe, but I'm going to tell you about it in case I did. A year ago, January, I got a phone call on a Saturday morning from a rough-sounding older guy who said, is this Michael? I said, yeah, Michael. He said, I'm Joe. I said, hi, Joe, what can I do for you? And he said, well, are you willing to discuss this Billy Meier case with me? Because I think it may be a hoax. I said, well, sure. That's what I do. Let's talk. So for 3 months, we went back and forth on the phone. Then he disappears. Joe disappears. Then in August of last year, he calls me up and he says, are you still willing to talk to me? I said, yeah, I'm glad you're back. He said, let me tell you who I am, and I'll tell you about your Billy Meier case. And I said, go. He said, I am the former top case supervisor for the United States Air Force Office of Special Investigation, tasked with protecting the national security of the United States of America. I have personally supervised and vetted hundreds of investigations, one-on-one or two-on-one, or however. I've been in the room with these people. We are vetting people who are aspiring to high office or higher office, people who could end up with their hands or fingers on the nuclear trigger. We are ferreting out moles and traitors. He says, I'm an investigator and I know investigation. I said, okay, the other shoe, Joe? Okay. He says, you don't have to believe what I just said, check your email. In came all the documents, clearly U.S. government, or whatever it was, Air Force documents. He was who he said he was. He says, now I'll tell you about your Billy Meier case. It is 100% ironclad authentic, and I will take on any skeptic on your behalf. I said, oh, okay. He did. He took on a guy who's in India who keeps attacking the case. He's going nuts because he can't accept that it's real. And he took on a guy named Kevin Randall, who's associated with MUFON and other UFO things. And Joe calls me back a week later and says, I don't know how you can talk to these people. I don't know. They don't understand research. They don't know what I'm talking about. They're telling me about... I said, look, unless you can show me how Billy Meier in 1964 has got 80 UFO photos, 11 of which still exist, they were reported on, and that, you're done. It's over. The case is real right there. He says, let alone Wally Gentleman, special effects people, all the rest of it. And he says, and the guy in India starts telling me maybe Billy Meier had a photo enlarger. And he's enlarging what? He says, I'm sorry, I can't talk to these people for you anymore. They drove me nuts. I said, okay, I understand. I've been through it a bit for about 30 years myself. So when we look at that whole thing, there's other people who are not in the UFO field who've come forward applying their own standards, of their own expertise, to looking at Meier's evidence. There was an attorney, about 2 weeks after I hear from Joe, some attorney, retired prosecutor, trial attorney, contacts me and he says, I've looked at your scientific information and it's empirical evidence, proof beyond a reasonable doubt, courtroom quality. It's real, I get it. And that's all I ever heard from the guy. He just gave a big, yep, that's you can bring that into a courtroom. I gotta say this because about 6 years ago I was in Las Vegas at a MUFON, I'm gonna get to MUFON a little bit here in a second, at a MUFON event where they gave me a table. I wasn't presenting, my films were being shown, but I didn't have any. Okay, so this guy walks over to the table, we have a table here, like Lynn's table, she's got stuff on there, and he's got his arms crossed, and he's just rocking back and forth, shaking his head like this, and I'm going, oh, hi sir, can I help you? And he says, yeah, I'm interested in UFOs, but this Billy Meier case, it's gotta be a hoax. I said, no, really? I said, what do you do? I'm a retired judge. Retired judge. Your Honor? Yes. May I step in your courtroom for just a moment, please? Yes. Guy was just in Mississippi. Good guy, you can tell. One of these types wants to know the truth, doesn't want to mess around. I said, Your Honor, if I tell you that NASA's claim that they are the ones to discover that the reason that the surface of the planet Mercury is contracting is because of the metal core, if I tell you that they're 32 years too late, my friend in Switzerland discovered it, would I have to prove that to you? He said, well, of course you have to prove it. I said, so if I take this book, turn it around so you can see it, and I open up the front, do you see the copyright date? Yes, I do. Do you see this particular conversation in 1976 where this man, Billy Meier, asks this alleged extraterrestrial woman, calling herself Semyaze, I've always wanted to know what the reason was for the contraction of the surface of the planet Mercury. And she says, that's easy. It's because of the metal core. Your Honor, in your courtroom, who prevails? You do. How much is the book? And the guy bought everything out, and I saw him later on sitting in one of the rooms where they were showing Silent Revolution of Truth. And they're looking like this. Never heard from him again, which was fine. The point is, there is, and we haven't even gotten to that, I don't know what time will permit, but there are over 26,000 pages of information in this case, a large portion of which are specific examples of what I call prophetically accurate scientific information, meaning we can prove by the internationally recognized standard of proof of first or prior publication, the copyright, that this man, Billy Meier, published that information before it was officially discovered by NASA, JPL, or any number of other scientists in various disciplines, because his information covers archaeology, biology, physics, astrophysics, tons of stuff. Because, well, if it's true, he's getting it from people who aren't guessing. They know. And they generally say, we know this, we don't know that, sorry. Or, we know this, but we can't tell you that until later. And we've got this. So all this case is, you'll see, okay, if I can move on here without getting too excited about this. Here, those of you that are interested in MUFON, I'm sorry to have to bring you this announcement. And I'll explain where this came from. There's a man named Kenneth Smith who recently, within the last 2 years, retired from Orbital Flight Systems down in Tucson, I think it is. They're a competitor to Musk. They send rockets up and satellites and all that. He was the VP Operations Director and all that stuff. He found the Meier material. We have a video with him online, Kenneth Smith, saying, this is why I know the Billy Meier case is authentic. And people that still work at Orbital with high-level clearances, whose names I'm not allowed to reveal, they know, and they've said it too. Ken had worked with another guy who was, his supervisor was a retired astronaut down there. There are people that do know the truth. I wish more would come forward. So this one friend of his at Orbital, MUFON wanted to recruit him. And so he was asking the guy questions about MUFON and how it worked. And here it says, most of MUFON's public information was intentionally bogus or redacted. The US State Department and CIA basically control this activity. This is why MUFON will not really investigate. Who cares now? But they won't, and they have never really investigated the Meier case. They've attacked it, as Meier was told they would in the 1950s before MUFON existed. I asked him, who also told Meier about the assassination of John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, the deaths of various heads of states, and many, many, many other things freely available. So let's stop and consider the singular historical significance. Yeah, why? What is the reason for the Billy Meier contacts? Now, I'm going to show the next slide, and I'm saying it with all due respect for everybody, myself included. I've had 7 sightings of things in the sky, 2 of which were here in Sedona, only 2 of which, and I feel confident to say, were not military. So this is more directed at the MUFON mindset. Oops, and here we go, any second now. It isn't for us to do all this stuff, whether it's chasing lights, whether it's being a speaker or an expert on something, that we can only be expert to any degree. I love to tease people. When I was interviewed by George Norrie, he said, "That's Michael Horn, he's the world's leading expert on UFOs." I said, "Oh good, that's the quote I'm going to keep." And of course, I'm not really. I mean, Billy Meier, if anything, but Billy doesn't know all those things. He doesn't care. He's been on those things since he was 5 years old, and it's like, okay, now what are we here to do? It's about the truth. Those of us that are here that are interested in UFOs, that do care about the phenomenon that has been seen in the sky, some of which is secret military, some of which is extraterrestrial. We want the truth because we know there is something greater. When Dr. Lin was speaking towards the very end of her presentation, she's getting into the meat of the matter, what this is really about. Let's just say this, the truth itself is harsh very often. We're going to move into just a little bit of that. But let's also say that the underlying reason for the Meier contacts, there's a couple levels, and one of which is to literally help us assure our future survival. And when Dr. Lin was talking about the more cosmic and deeper connections that we need to see, to feel, to make, to understand about life, creation, that which birthed everything, nature, all of the manifestations, that is the underlying core of the Meier case. And so usually if I do this next part, I would put up a screen in front so that the tomatoes, when they start coming at me, we've got to concern ourselves with what they've been warning us about. And this, I will get into as much as is allowed time-wise here, the specifics, but I have to just say these things and put them out there. I am an evidence-based person. I have been fortunate with no background in the sciences and training and any of that stuff to meet, of course, the original investigative team, Wendell, Lee, and Britt. I've been in touch with, I also met Niels Rudberg, who tested the sound recordings and all. We don't have evidence of contact. Do we have evidence that people have seen things? Yes, and do we have evidence that we've been triggered into and impulsed? But we're not going to ascend, not for a few 100 million years, and we're not going into 5D because there is nothing the matter with matter. This is the stuff that we're in. And when we get away from any of the things that try to tell us that there's something wrong with where we are, we can embrace the teaching that connects us to the deeper levels of understanding that can only be gained as personalities incarnate, reincarnated, if you will. So you have to, if you wish, ask yourself the question, why you'll believe anything without evidence. We're getting to the reason these questions are important. And you know what? We've all believed lots of things without evidence. Here's the thing. What they have said is at the core of all this is this. 100% self-responsibility. We are the ones self-responsible for our own lives. There's more to it than that. It means that there is no level of responsibility for our lives from anyone outside of us any more than we are responsible for somebody else's life. Yes, if you're a parent, until the child is reaching the age of reason and responsibility and stuff. This is the part that is not so comfortable because I think we're a group of people who realize that the world is not the warmest, fuzziest, cuddliest place that it could be. And we do want something else. Well, here's a harsh reality that's contained in the Meier case that he was first told in 1975. After 2020, that doesn't mean the day after 2020 ends. It means after that time period, according to their own future views and calculations, which are done with an understanding of the law of cause and effect. They're not guessing. They're calculating when they're not literally going forward in time. Again, just for everybody's respect for your intelligence, according to the information in the case. They have warned for a long time, and I'll tell you the date here, and I'll tell you why this date isn't accurate in a minute. You'll see that this is concluding with a warning about the destruction of the World Trade Center. This is an assessment from a certain point of view in what's called the Enoch prophecies, the prophecies of Enoch, meaning that this 1987, that's only the most recent date when those were translated into German and first published. The destruction of the WTC, according to this document, was first put into our contemporary world in 1987. Discussed again by Meier with the ETs in 1989, etc. Now, if we go forward, and I said that Meier himself produces his own prophecies and predictions, here's why I'm fast-tracking beyond a lot of other things, because I'm concerned about this. This is where we're starting to feel the pit of our stomach and things going, well, wait a minute, is this all supposed to be love and light? Yeah, it is. It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be. But we're the minority. I may have a video in here where Billy speaks about the minority who can't do anything against what the majority is doing and set in motion according to the laws of cause and effect. And we can't do anything on the big picture, though. We can do things about other things. So, this is in the same document, foretelling two coming civil wars. I was with a fellow named Randy Winters in 1986 in Los Angeles. He had the 1981 first publication of this. I read it. I didn't know that much about Billy, 86, 87. And I laughed, and I said, what's this guy in Switzerland thinking here? Civil war in America, that can't happen. And he said, yeah, I know, I don't think that could be right either. Randy was sometimes a little understated. I think any of us, no matter what side of a political, religious, philosophical spectrum, we're getting the news these days. And in the past year and a half, that term civil war in America have been brought together by people far right, far left, or far center, whatever. It's no longer simply some absurd theory. So let's see what we get here if we have Billy a little bit.
Amerikaner und EU versuchen Russland kaputt zu machen. Putin, der sagt nichts, der schweigt einfach dazu. Und Amerika und Europa sagen einfach immer, Russland will angreifen, Krieg machen und so weiter, alles Blödsinn. Russland hat keine Idee, um Krieg zu machen. Wer Krieg zu machen versucht, ist EU und Amerika. Weißt du, es hat in EU viele verrückte Leute, genauso wie in Amerika. Und in Amerika die Minorität, du weißt, was Minorität ist. Die Minorität muss schweigen, kann nichts dazu sagen. Es ist das Gros, die regieren und die Feindschaft schaffen und so weiter und so fort und Waffenindustrie erhalten wollen und alles das. Und das Minorität im amerikanischen Volk kann rein nichts dagegen tun. Und die müssen dann auch darunter leiden, wenn über Amerika geschumpfen wird. Wenn etwas gesagt wird, das nicht gut ist über Amerika, müssen die dann eben auch darunter leiden. Oder? Und das ist das, was eben sehr schlecht ist. Denn diejenigen, die Minorität, die nichts tun kann, oder die kann nur die Faust im Sack machen, mehr nicht. Und die Menschen, die nicht einverstanden sind mit dem, was gemacht wird, mit Krieg führen, Todesstrafe und all das, die müssen darunter leiden. Die können rein gar nichts machen. Und wenn irgendetwas ist draußen in Amerika geschimpft wird, weißt du, schlechte Worte gebraucht werden für Amerika, dann werden diese automatisch mit einbezogen. Weißt du, und ich denke, meine Meinung, wenn Clinton hinkommt, Hillary Clinton, dann ist der Teufel los, genauso wie bei Bush und so weiter. Und sie ist ja Befürworterin für Todesstrafe, Death Penalty. Ja. Dann kommt es auch schlimm in Amerika, genau wie bei Bush. Und ich denke, wenn Trump hinkommt, ist genauso blöd. Ich glaube, das sind zwei, die überhaupt nichts taugen für Präsidentschaft. Ja, ja. Weißt du, und das macht ganz Amerika kaputt. Ja. Oder?
Okay. Again, they're not partisan politically. In June, I think it was, they originally told Billy that Trump would win the election, he shouldn't say anything. So in November, he said, well, okay, what can I do? They said the reason you shouldn't say anything, there will be these false machinations that he has won his office illegally. And they don't know at this point what's going to happen to that. They've also said that they don't think he's qualified to be the president. So it's not a matter of, oh, we like this one, we like that. This is the way we see things. This is what it's about. This is what the whole thing is about. It's the spiritual teaching and the spiritual teaching people. The spiritual teaching people, they are the minority as well. You know, when Billy said in there, the minority, you know what that means? I said, yeah, but I didn't. It took me a while to put it together. Why the minority? It's the minority screws the world up. They are the smaller ones in numbers. But it's the minority who knows the truth, who cares about the real, eternal, valid principles and values and ethics and everything of life. We're the minority. Now, there's a lot of good people that don't want the wars and all the rest of this. But those people don't necessarily penetrate with their thinking into the deeper part of it. They're not necessarily going inwardly. They may believe things that are more outside of them. And it's much better to have a bunch of people who might believe things that are good, acting towards the good, than not. But the real minority are the people that also know the truth. We start off with this, the Billy Meier UFO contacts, and people, there have been 23 attempts against Meier's life. He was just told in July, you better get prepared because there's going to be a whole new wave of stuff coming at you, coming at the people in Switzerland. We will try to, what we're allowed to do in terms of helping with your security, but, there could be more attempts in your life and all the rest of this. Because the people that are the hard materialist, greedy, power-hungry people, they don't want the truth to come out because it kind of ruins their day. And any of us, we've probably gone through things in our own life where we were more materialistic in days and years past until some things started to happen. Somebody talked about this or showed us that or what have you. That's why I said this isn't any longer about UFOs and extraterrestrials. The first thing was the eye candy, the UFOs. And by the way, I think if I'm correct, and my friend Carter's correct, they were asked about the Phoenix Lights, and Patah said they hadn't really looked into it, but they think it may have been one of the three groups. What three groups? Well, there's another extraterrestrial race that for a very long period of time has simply maintained an observational interest in Earth and our life, like a study. They have divided themselves into three groups, each of which kind of monitor sectors of our world and report in with all their stuff and bring their information in. They don't contact anybody, but their ships are sometimes seen. And then there's another group. They are the future Earth time travelers who are observing, who don't make contact either, who are probably going, how the heck did we ever end up with, four eyes and all the rest? Coming back to look at these times that are leading to this great transformation, which is foretold in many traditions as well. The Hopi were mentioned before, as a matter of fact. They have prophecies pertaining to the Four Corners area, to the coming times and the gourds that are spilled. There's a lot of stuff in here that is hard to take in the Meier material because it's not anecdotal, it's not mystical, it's not cryptic, it's literal. You don't have to, it's not Nostradamus, when the big birdie flies between the two. No, it's about this is this. And they name names many times and events and places and things, but they no longer will give the specific dates. In 2005, Meier published information from the Pleiaren. There will be a 9.0 earthquake that runs for 5 minutes at 9.0 with a tsunami following another earthquake and tsunami that will come in Portland area, Cascadian subduction zone. It was 3 years later, in 2008, I've had this on my website since 2005, that OSU came up with the same official discovery. In the Canary Islands, there's Cumbre Vieja. That's a huge volcano that will erupt. The only question is, will the advice be taken to grade down the western-facing side so that when that erupts, 1 trillion tons of mass are not suddenly hurled straight into the Atlantic, producing a tsunami tidal wave, call it what you will, that not only flows up the coast of Western Europe, but moves at high supersonic speeds as a shock wave through the Atlantic to where it rises out of the sea on the eastern seaboard and penetrates 12 miles and takes out 20 million people along the East Coast. There's something, how many people have heard of asteroid Apophis? Anybody? A few, right? Okay. Asteroid Apophis. I'm going to take this moment to say there is a group of people that are working to help contribute to preventing the impact. What is asteroid Apophis? Well, let's go back to 1981. Billy Meier publishes something from the Pleiaren, which we've also illustrated in comic book form so people could grasp it a little in terms of imagery. They said there's something coming towards Earth that they're calling the red meteor. They said 2029, I think it's April 13th, or April 13th, 2036, slammo-whammo between the North Sea and the Black Sea. And if it is not going to be deflected, and they explain how to do that, it is going to change your landscape on Earth. Not just there in Eastern Europe, but the whole planet is going to be affected by that. And then they said, because we, the Pleiaren, are not allowed to interfere with this as a cosmic event. Your scientists must come together internationally, cooperatively. Well, okay, if we must. Cooperatively and deflect it. The recommended way, you launch a rocket that has a nuclear device, and at the precisely calculated time and space and point, you detonate so that the shock wave deflects it from its orbit. Don't blow it up unless you want it. You'll need big umbrellas for that because that's going to come down on your heads. So I mentioned before that Mr. Kenneth Smith from Orbital, who happens to be sitting right here, would you be so kind as just stand and say hi for a second here? That's Mr. Smith. He's working with a guy named Christer in Sweden, and a man named Harry Lear, who has put up information showing that he has solved the correct value of pi, which, according to the Plejaren, he has done. And there are a couple other people involved in this A-team. They are trying to contribute their information and their expertise to those parties at NASA and other places to, number one, pay attention, because you're going to have to deflect this. See, NASA, when they discovered Apophis in 2004, a mere 23 years after Billy goes, well, here it is, and we illustrate it and all that. The Russians took it seriously. They called for a joint effort to deflect it. I think the Chinese may have joined it. The European Space Agency has been approached. NASA says there's nothing to worry about. Then they started to maybe look at it a little differently. Now, NASA has said that Apophis, well, they've re-estimated the size of Apophis to be within 25 meters of what Meier was told and published before the geniuses at NASA came up with it. Now they're saying, well, it could be a problem. So Ken and the A-team are working to try to reach people. It's very difficult to come into certain areas of expertise, because science has gone off into this, it's about my reputation, my celebrity, my funding, my tenure, not about the truth, not about science, at least a lot in this country. Just so you know, by the way, ASU, Arizona State University, I sent them one of my films called And Did They Listen, which warns about a lot of stuff. They wrote me back and said, this film will not be shown here. They banned it. There's a professor who retired from Northern Arizona University who was a skeptic. I met him circumstantially. For 4 months, I gave him Meier's material to look at. He had me come into NAU and do 2 presentations. He's an anthropology professor. He had nothing to do with this. He was fascinated. So the task that Ken and the A-team members have, and anybody else that goes to bat for Meier's material to bring it into the world, to make that bridge into, well, if there really are extraterrestrials and they really contacted somebody, what's the reason for it? It's our future survival, and we are, of course, we can speak more freely to the spiritual teaching people, the people that are already resonating more with truth, with life, and who want to know more, and who want to, if freely, there's no obligation, study some of this information that is part of this teaching, which is thousands of pages in various books and free documents, where you can understand it's belief free, it's not religious. It's like if you want to do electronics, you get a book. Let's see, wire A goes to terminal A. Oh, let's see, I'm still here. So this is a teaching. It is the reason, it is the core, and it's not new. It's older than the prophet Enoch or Henoch here. It's beyond ancient. The Plejaren study it. Meier prepares and actually writes some of the spiritual teaching for them. That's a whole other story about discovering that Meier had an IT guy from outer space who comes to fix his computer. It's a silly thing. This is such a bizarre thing because it's so ordinary in certain ways. Meier is the most down-to-earth, present type of person. There's no guru smiling. There's no, hey, you know where I was just before you got here, right? None of that stuff. It's just like he's a real person with a real life and real big problems and real big benefits for being able to carry this through. But it's all been a labor of love for him and these people who, for 13,500 years throughout their society, have acted to contact the most specifically qualified person to carry forward the information in that epoch. We're now in the electronic age where we don't have to worry that this stuff will be rewritten again and turned into yet another religion, a belief system, a culture, or anything else. It's preserved, and it will be. And what is coming to our world? The environmental upheaval. Billy Meier is the first person. In 1951, he writes about unnatural, man-made climate change, global warming, the increase in frequency and intensity of earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, tsunami storms, blizzards. And from that point on, up until even just last year, spelling out the environmental things that are coming that now cannot be stopped. What's at the core of our problems? And this irritates a lot of people. Sometimes people, oh, they're kind of with, oh yeah, that makes sense. Well, they've said it's overpopulation. Oh, you mean this is about genocide and eugenics? No, it's about, we didn't, there must have been something else that we missed after go forth and multiply, like stop, at a certain point. So they said, look, you can only sustain, here's the idea, you get a terrarium, a nice terrarium, a lot of green things, maybe a couple of frogs, I don't know, and you keep adding different organisms in. After a while, it implodes, it dies, it pollutes itself, kind of like the big terrarium here. This is a finite space, we're in a speck of cosmic glint, all set up for life, but we've overdone it. And we're not educated to take that into consideration all too often. So that produces the strife, the overpopulation, the pollution, the conflict, the wars, the scarcities, the famines. And we don't ever connect that. We, meaning the mainstream world, doesn't give thought, well, wait a minute. If all those people are fleeing that country to get somewhere, why didn't they get it together in their own country? Why are there so many people fleeing? Well, strangely enough, Meier was warned in 1948 that there'll be a crazy woman in Germany who's going to open the floodgates to people who will just flood through, all through Europe, only a small portion of which are genuine, compassion-deserving refugees from wars or whatever. Oh my gosh, well, they said to him, you don't have to understand. There are reasons for things. There's reasons why if a society attains a certain level of success, and abundance, and economic growth, and all that stuff, and other people haven't, and they want to come, the right thing isn't just to open the gates and then be run over by people who aren't capable of joining at that level. They'll be exploited. Teach them. Export what they want. Export teaching of how to make that work. So that people in their own cultures can rise in an organic, natural flow of their own evolution, not trying to become another society that is foreign to their own nature and potential destiny. What happens? All the cultures get strangely diluted and deformed in certain ways, and we think we've done a wonderful thing, and sometimes we've made a mistake that we didn't calculate, we didn't think through. So, spiritual teaching is largely about learning how to think, how human beings, how we as human beings can learn how thinking really works, because our thoughts give rise to our feelings. It's not the other way around. When we're feeling something for or against somebody or something, we've already had thoughts about it. And then we have a feeling, and then we have another micro thought, and then we act or we don't act based on that sequence. They're saying, when you learn how this works and practice and start owning that and controlling it, then you get the world that you want to create. Yes, all of the positive thinking things, that's fine, but you have to learn how to do neutral positive thinking. Neutral. First, you have to see things as they are. That requires a foundational step that you are 100% responsible for your life. Okay, it's me. Now what? Now you have to see things as they are. Not as you want them to be, not as you fear that they may be, but as they are. And from that perspective, then you are thinking, feeling, thinking, and acting or not acting, depending on how you have crafted your goal, what you want to correct, what you want to improve, or what you want to perpetuate. It's just fine as it is, and all the other possibilities. We are thinking 24/7. We're thinking in our dreams, we're thinking when we're sleeping, eating, making love. It doesn't mean we go, I'm sorry, I'm thinking, I can't pay. No, we learn how to observe and control while we're doing everything else. While we're doing everything else. Now, I've had a lot of time to present this. I'm going to probably, this is a place to stop, isn't it?
You've got 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Then let me just, you know what, I'll make this statement. This is what this is about. My website and my blog. We also have meetings in Arizona, up in northern Arizona. Oh, we are in northern Arizona. We actually have meetings going on in Sedona, of all things, on the second Saturday or third Saturday of the month, I forget, but I've got it written down, where we get together in a leaderless format. We don't have leaders, this isn't a hierarchy. We discuss the spiritual teaching, our understanding of it, our questions about it. We do that as fellow human beings on a path of conscious evolution. In that film, Silent Revolution Truth, we had Billy sitting outside there in the beginning of the film. Billy says, the meaning of life is the evolution of consciousness. This doesn't stop. It changes, but that's a long, long way in the future that we start thinking about, light bodies. Folks, we're going to do this for a long time. The Plejaren have only had 52,000 years of peace in their worlds. These were high-tech Star Wars on steroid lunatics in their past, their ancestors. Hundreds of thousands and more years ago, they had high technology. They went out and they had spiritual knowledge, but it doesn't guarantee that you're going to stay on the right-hand path. And many times on our earth, and we've got the histories. All this is on my website. You can read about things that happened here a few 100,000 years ago. You can read what happened with and to and in Atlantis and Lemuria, and who those people were, and how it was actually destroyed. And the Plejaren have shared so much stuff, and they shared their own history, how screwed up they were, and how it took teachers of the spiritual teaching came to their world and taught them over a couple thousand years. And they finally decided, well, maybe peace is better than all this, let's vaporize everything stuff. So we meet in Sedona, we may meet in other places. You are welcome to inquire, to sign up to get information if you're interested. My website has lots of the spiritual teaching free. Billy's books are magnificent. One side is German, one side is English. And you get to go back and forth and read that. If you read German, you're getting a richer actual meaning of words and stuff. Does anybody have any questions at all about any of this? I hope. Oh yes, contestant over there. That's you.
Yeah,
Microphone.
microphone. You have the.
Here we go. Can you? Would you? Will you? Please.
So, Michael, so if we're not going to ascend, I mean, we're just going to stay here for like 100 years in a full body? Is that what you're saying?
What is said in the case is this. First of all, many of us here are very curious about energy bodies, different aspects of things, because we are more than even we know right now. In the spiritual teaching, they speak about parts of the human being, aspects of us we don't even know exist. So we don't experience learning when we are not incarnate. According to the material in the case, when we die, the human spirit moves into what they call the beyond. It's like an etheric space right around this planet, where the spirit, if you will, rests until it's time for the next reincarnation of the spirit in a brand new personality that has nothing to do with the life you've lived in this former one. What we often refer to as the soul is a misnomer. According to this, they say you're talking about the psyche, which is generally located right around the solar plexus. It's temporary. It's a temporary construct that dissolves upon death, but all of the emotions, knowledge, all this stuff is absorbed by the spirit and also into what they call the storage banks, which is similar but not exactly what Rudolf Steiner was referring to as an Akashic record. Nothing is lost. Nothing of good value is lost. It's mainly the positive that is retained for impulsing to us in the next incarnation. So rather than be grim about it, do you remember that last lifetime of yours when you owed me that bag of rice or anything like that? No? Okay. Oh, you do? Well, I'm collecting. No, but the thing is this. We don't tend to really remember our past. Even with things like where people remember, sometimes very young children still have some memories. Sometimes they're not even remembering their own past life. They may be picking up on stuff about, or it's theirs or somebody else's. But there's not a lot we can do. I used to do New Age comedy, and I said, when I was doing this stuff, I said, in the New Age, the problem is everybody's so busy doing past life regression, they don't live this life. So they don't know what happened. They're still doing reviews. There's no unemployment either, because everybody's a holistic healer. I'll raise your chakras. Okay, then I think what I will do, I'll clean a little contact lens for your third eye. Okay? Yeah, good. Let's stick it in. So we don't remember, and there's nothing to fear. Think back, depending on your age, think back 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. You're not even really the same person. You weren't living in fear of what you'd become unless there was a circumstance that was particularly bad. And you look back and you go, well, I got through all that. It's set up in a far more brilliant way than we appreciate in terms of truth about life. Now that is, any and all of that is for you to determine for yourself. I'm not going to tell you, well, this is true because Billy Meier says it's true. No, there's stuff in the Meier case that I don't know if it's true or not. I can't prove it or disprove it. I have in the past 30 years found that we have proved, corroborated, and those corroborations being done by our science, that Billy was right about all these things, from the largest dinosaur on Earth to the nature of wandering black holes, from the speed of gravity to the speed of light. It's all in there. Sometimes our discoveries use the same words, literally. I've got a whole page of it on my website where I bold the words that he was told, and I bold the words that the scientists are using 20, 30, and 40 years later. And you're going, what? What are people waiting for? This essence that Lynn was talking about, the sense of connection, this grander thing, they refer to the creation. This universe is not only a physical thing, it is thought made manifest from its source of beingness itself. This creation, which is one of countless billions of already existing universe creations at different levels of evolution, which will have its own life cycles. It will last 147 trillion years and then contract and slumber, and then in that slumbering time, at a certain point, everything that's been compressed, like Billy says, to the size of a flea. Yes, he says, there is what you would call a Big Bang. Suddenly, and without warning, everything, love becomes itself, and it just spews out. And they've given him the figures for the speed of light at the point of the original Big Bang and what it's now and all. And you read, and you start finding scientists say, well, we think the light is slowing down. Yeah, well, Billy Meier published that too, but you don't want to know that because you want to sit on top of your silly little kingdom as a, finally, after spending 100 grand or whatever in your education, you don't want that ripped out from underneath you. I went to the, I'll just say this in case, and if there's another question. Well, let's take the question for John.
Yeah, hi there, everybody. Phenomenal, outrageous what you're doing. I love it.
Thank you.
Yes, I've been into Billy Meier on and off for many years. I've known Wendell Stevens personally, Roger Shearer and I studied a lot together. We had Randolph Winters down in Tucson. So, it's dynamite stuff. So I've been a little bit unplugged with it for a while. So just real quick, I'd like to take some questions. I'll get some aside.
Sure.
Number one is Loosberger, if they fly again, what do you think of that? The Enoch Prophecies are in there. Is that a pretty good book about special teaching with James Deardorff? If you on the side or not?
Okay, sure. Let's go back. Wendell Stevens and Randy and all the good people that contributed. Wendell passed away, but Lee and Britt Elders live up in Munns Park. I was living around the corner from them. I didn't realize it until I found out. Going into the idea of the Enoch Prophecies or Enoch Prophecies, they are in the book called And Still They Fly, that was written by a man named Guido Moosbrugger, and in there is the whole thing with the destruction of World Trade Center and all that. They waited until 2002 to put it out. But here's the thing about those prophecies. For instance, in that body of prophetic information, that was not published originally in 1987. It was published almost 11,000 years ago. It's put into contemporary language. It is said that the Russians will move their troops to a place called Arkhangelsk, which is in northern Siberia, in preparation for their ultimate attacks against Scandinavia, and then ultimately when they come through and attack our country because somehow our government doesn't get the message that it's a bad thing to do. Well, in 2012, 10 years after Guido's book came out, the Russians moved their troops to Arkhangelsk. And in Norway and in Sweden, and to some degree in Finland, they've been doing war games and preparing and having hostilities have been amping up a bit with the Russians. It's all in there. There are still things that we can do in our own personal lives, and maybe outside the slightly larger sphere, to affect better, more positive waves of energy. I will tell you this because there's just so much in here to talk about. And James Deardorff, I knew James Deardorff, he was great. He was a scholar who went to look at the Talmud Emmanuel because he thought it was a biblical hoax. And
No, wrap it.
wrap it up. Okay.
Yeah.
It was a biblical hoax. 2 minutes? Okay. He discovered that it wasn't, and resolved over 350 inconsistencies in the book of Matthew. That's another thing. We have copies of And Still They Fly that I got from the publisher, brand new, never used. Okay, that's another thing. The only thing I brought here, I brought 8 copies of my own DVD called Consciousness Workshop, because in 1990 I had an experience that was really very transformative for me. I formalized it, I structured it, I did it on the therapist and all. I was taken to Europe by a consultant, Princess Diana, to do it on government and business people there. And then I thought, I better send this to Billy, because I've got it on the website, and I say, this may not be consistent with this. And he says, no, do that at every opportunity. That's part of the spiritual teaching. That's what we're trying to get people to learn. So I brought 8 copies of that, if anybody's interested. First part's a DVD presentation of the Meier case, and the rest of it shows you how to do this thing for getting your thinking, feeling, and resolving your internal stuff, being your own therapist, so to speak. So if there are any other more types of questions or anything, I can go outside, right?
At the table, yeah.
And what's the best way for people to meet you and to interact with you, and if they want to come back, what's the best way to communicate with you?
I'd be an airplane ticket. No, sorry, I couldn't resist. My website is called, I've got some cards, theyfly.com, and I have a very active blog, international people from all over the world, where we're doing it more on a regular basis of updating all the information, the corroborations, and people talking. Here was the last thing I was going to tell you. In the 1980s, Billy was asked by some Americans, where's the best place in North America to build a center that will be able to preserve the material for the future time and all of that? He said, I'll ask, but they probably won't tell me. They told him, it's a place called Munns Park, Arizona, or a 200-kilometer radius of Flagstaff. We are looking at some of that right now. Anybody that's interested in that, knowing more about any of this, I will be out there, and hopefully we can chat. Oh, wait a minute, is there a panel?
Yes. You're welcome to join the panel.
Okay, I'd like to try that a little bit, to try the panel.
Michael Horn, please.
Thank you.
And they have a microphone up here.
We've observed that, or my experience has been in this gathering that we've had, that there's been differing experiences as far as potential outcomes in what we're doing. From what Billy Meier is saying, that basically things are continuing, they're going to be horrible, to hey, no, we have a new possibility and a new outcome, and all places in between. So what are your takes on this? Because as far as, there was a little bit of conversation about, we're kind of at that point where we've been drinking all night, and we either have an opportunity to give the bartender our keys or try to drive home. And Billy Meier is kind of saying, well, you're going to drive home, and it's going to be a horrible wreck. And we're saying, well, no, wait a minute. There's other choices that we can make. And so I'd like to hear the outcomes on that, please.
Sure. As I was trying to get to towards the end of my presentation, the core of the Meier case is what's called the spiritual teaching, which is about learning how to think and thereby create reality based on intelligently constructed thinking. What may be misunderstood about predictions and prophecies, they're two different things in terms of the context of the Meier case. Prophecies are things that will happen if we do not make corrections in our course. And if we don't make course corrections, then some things will turn into predictions. There are predictions in their own right, which usually refer more to greater events that are, let's say, more cosmic in nature. The Apophis asteroid, Billy is warned about this in '81, so you could say it's a prophecy or prediction from them. Scientists discovered it in 2004. So if the better thinking prevails and people come together, you first have to see things as they are. There is an asteroid coming. It is a cultist. And it will create an effect unless people come together, put their thinking caps on, work in harmony and unison with each other. The reason that this case is so full of prophecy and prediction is so that we may avoid negative things, not to dwell on them. And the reason that I'm not up here telling you about all the things that are very positive in the Meier case that also are predictions is because we have to take more responsibility for those things that are in front of us now. Everything in life is cause and effect. We can't change a cause into a better effect or into a non-effect unless we first see it as it exists. Then we say we prefer something else, and we come together, and we do that on a moment-by-moment basis.
Hi, thank you so much, you guys, for everything you're doing. And just a quick question. Any information when maybe the chemtrails will stop?
I'd like to say, according to the information of the case, in terms of the Billy Meier case, because there are things I cannot prove. One way or the other, as early as 2000, I was taking photos of the so-called chemtrails when I was living in LA, not far from the LA airport. And I brought photos to Switzerland and showed them to some of the people there, and they were looking at me like I didn't know something that they knew. And so finally, they said, what people don't understand, and this came from the player, I'm not telling you this is true, by the way, I'm just telling you what the information is. They said, you don't understand that the damage to your atmosphere that goes back decades, of course, many decades, has altered a lot in your atmosphere, in the upper reaches of it. It's also altered the behavior of contrails from airplanes. Under certain conditions, they will behave differently than they normally do. And so they went on to say that, well, the chemtrails are not what you think they are. They're not this nefarious plot. And this is, I was getting, talking to them around 2000, 2002, 2006, etc. Then I got an email from a pilot who didn't know that information, but was aware of the Meier case, and he told me basically the same thing. The third thing was from James Deardorff, who happened to have been the scholar who researched the Talmud of Manuel. Well, he was a professor of meteorology as well, and he also said that. But in terms of this thing with DNA and viruses and all of that, it's not that it's going to be the chemtrail thing. There is a plan, according to the Plejarin, and he explained it to Meier so that it would be explained to us, that there are elements of what we call the elite who do recognize the fact that the ever-expanding population is not positive for the survival of the species. And what they will do, and what they have undertaken to do, is to work on developing certain types of viruses and other things that will be, let's say, racially specific. And all these things about how wonderful, send your blood in for your DNA test. I would avoid doing that. There are various kinds of plants, because to just try to aerosol everybody with viruses and or to spray everything that is terrible, remember, the air, the winds, things move. You can't rely on something staying static over an area when you have normal or abnormal weather conditions. So the absence of that as being the major cause that a lot of people think, and the real dangers of all the things. For instance, Meier was publishing information from him about glyphosate, this terrible cancer-causing chemical, before Monsanto was taken to task about it. This stuff is so ubiquitous, it's in organic foods as well at times. We have real challenges to our health from things like glyphosate, from the pollution we've got going, all the man-made causes, etc., and the nefarious activities of groups that do want to eliminate certain races and cultures and what have you. It isn't an effective way to do it if you spray stuff, because it's too ubiquitous, and everybody's food, everybody's water, everybody's children, one way or the other, is going to be affected by it. It's bad enough that we are affected by all the consequences of air pollution, atmospheric damage, and the rest of it. I just think that it's also important that, and I'm saying this as somebody who likes to lecture, I think it's also very important that we have discussions, that we meet. This is why, like with the group, that we meet and discuss the material in the Meier case, because it is so broad in its range of what it covers and the principles of thinking and how we do create things with our thoughts, that I'd love to see, roundtables where everybody is kind of in discussion. If you know what I'm saying, I love to get the chance to lecture and do my thing But I also can learn more, which is why I go to the meetings and the spiritual teaching, which I hate group interactivity, I'm not for it, and I go every time I can, because I learn more from other people's thinking about it. So that means I'm wanting to hear as well how people think. I don't want us to just lay out these things as if we know everything about everything, because none of us do. Billy doesn't know everything about it, I don't know everything about it, you don't. But we're going to know in short enough order what things are really the challenges in the horizon that we do have to address. Okay.
Other questions, please?
Yes, I have a question. I see so much information online that contradicts, and I'm wondering if you can explain the difference between hybrids, star seeds, humans. Are any of us really human? Or are we all from somewhere else? And which one am I?
Again, the reference point from my material and through my own thinking. If it's true that the universe is full, teeming with human life, and essentially in spirited human life, part piece, a hologram of the creation is the human spirit. And human life forms exist at all sorts of levels of evolution everywhere. So there's nothing better or worse. I mean, you could be a tourist from Arcturus. It doesn't much matter. We're here, it's now. We're all subject to the experiences of living on this planet, and any of the distinctions that we really can't prove, but we'd like to be, like it if they were true, or make us feel better, or make us feel worse. This is real life now, and we want to deal with it as people of equal value, because each human spirit is of equal value, different as it may be. So distinctions of those sorts, I'm not a specialist in it, I just prefer to forget about it. I will tell you that in the Meier material, they simply say there are 52 million human spirits of extraterrestrial origin that are in the reincarnational cycle of Earth. That, wherever they may have come from, or whatever abilities or whatever status they may have had before, they're incarnating as human beings in all sorts of countries and cities and places, and they don't have any recollections on it. It's not important. We're in it all together in the soup. So that's the love that binds us together, which is what I'm most enthralled with. And I'm going to pass this on and say thank you also for the invitation to be here, and I'm looking forward to some more of it. And thank you, Michael.
I want to echo a little bit of what he said, based on my personal experience.